and welcome to the Code Clarity podcast. I'm Jean.
And I'm Rina. Welcome to a new series. And we're starting with a big one because the big news in UK pharma is that Theramex have decided to leave the jurisdiction of the PMCPA. Now, we recognise that some of you might not know what that means. So, Jean, can you describe, generally, what's the difference between PMCPA and MHRA jurisdiction?
Okay, so the PMCPA is the body that administers the ABPI code, another acronym for you there. So it's all to do with the self-regulation where they manage all of the complaints about the UK companies. Now, the MHRA is obviously the government arm, and that is the legal regulation of the promotion of medicines. Yeah. So the MHRA is kind of the legal framework, and the PMCPA is kind of a self-regulation.
Okay, so by stepping away from the PMCPA, they've gone down another route. How did this even come about? What has led to them making this decision?
So there's been a couple of big cases for Theramex. One of them was actual employees that brought it against them and had raised concerns about their prescribing information and how well they were updating and managing prescribing information. And then there was another, and that was ongoing, and there was appeal boards going on with that. And then there was a second case about whether they were promoting a medicine outside of license at conferences.
Okay.
And both of those together, and they were, like I say, they were before appeal boards, and the appeal boards were getting a little bit, like, do you know what you're doing here? Do we need to come in and audit you? And so Theramex said before the final appeal board meeting, we're not going to come to this meeting, we're not going to submit anything because we're going to remove ourselves from the PMCPA jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the first time we've seen this, Rina, or is this a common thing to happen?
I mean, I wouldn't say it was common, and certainly maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we weren't really seeing this. But just in that short space of time, we've seen a number of companies have moved away from PMCPA jurisdiction, from Sandoz and Evolus. We've seen companies like small pharma actually rejoin again. So maybe the grass isn't always greener on the other side. We've seen companies who've never accepted the jurisdiction of the PMCPA, like Vertex, formally, kind of announce that position as well. So I think there's much to sort of keep an eye on in this area, because the two areas you described, Jean, prescribing information and promoting outside a license, those are legal areas. So what does that mean now for Theramex?
Well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because obviously you mentioned Vertex. When they got a complaint a couple of years ago to the PMCPA obviously then handed it over to the MHRA, and the MHRA deal with it under law. Now, both of these instances about prescribing information and promotion outside license, that's very much the MHRA's bag. That's what they're strong on, what they're concerned about. So it'll be very interesting to see how the MHRA responds to Theramex leaving it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know from Theramex's view, they've sort of said that resources are better spent on their own compliance program than dealing with complaints. They also don't feel like they should be spending time raking over the details of historic issues, which is interesting. But they feel like unscrupulous competitors have used the system to complain about us. And I think I'm not sure about that one, because if there's a complaint and a breach at the end of the day, I don't think you should spend time worrying about where it came from necessarily. But they have said they've remained fully committed to high standards. So they're still going to review and approve materials in an approval system. They're not going to move away from that. Yeah. So what do we now think? What do all these kind of companies and these messages, what are the consequences to the wider industry in the UK who are looking at this very carefully?
Yeah, and I guess I think you're right. People will be looking at this carefully, because it really does question, does self-regulation work? If we're getting more and more of these companies that are saying, actually, we choose not to be self-regulated and we want to be under the MHRA. I mean, I think that has a huge impact for can the MHRA cope with all of that? If they can't cope with all of that, then how do we better self-regulate? Is, as you said, is the grass always greener? And are we going to start seeing these companies coming back and going, actually, you do need to audit us because we do need to be self-regulated? I think it's going to be a really interesting time in the future.
Yeah, I completely agree. Thank you so much, Jean.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.